May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, doing our bit to preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we have the second installment of a podcast with Therese Fitzgerald. So I'm just going to read you a little thing I got on her here. Therese Fitzgerald came to the San Francisco Zen Center in 1976, was ordained as a priest by Richard Baker in 1986. With her husband, Arnold Kotler, founded the community of mindful living, applying the teachings of Thich Nhat Hahn, who ordained her as a dharmacharya in 1994. She worked with Maxine, Hong, Kingston's Veterans Riding Group. Now, Therese is a hospice chaplain in Maui, where she and Arnie moved to long ago. There's more to her story that you could hear last week in the first installment and this week in installment 2. This week is going to have quite a bit on the trauma she and Arnie experienced in the sort of breakup with Thich Nhat Hahn. And she's going to talk about the Veterans Riding Group with Maxine, Hong, Kingston, and I don't know. I can't remember what else. Anyway, so look, just as soon as we've had our pause to meditate, we'll give her a call. So when you hear the bell, if you're of such a mind, hit pause and meditate or whatever for as long as you wish. And when you're ready to come back, hit unpause. And we'll be here to hit the bell to end the meditation or whatever, and we'll give Therese Fitzgerald a call.
Hi, David.
Hi, Therese. How you doing?
Hi. You got that mic working?
Oh, yeah. I was copying some audio files of the trunk, what is it called? Chronicles of CTR. The Trungpa site. There's, they have interviews on there that, have to do with Suzuki Roshi and people we know. And I was copying them, and there wasn't any way to download them. So I had to rip them, as they say, while they were playing. And so I had to reset my, and I'd forgotten that. So when I called you, I went, "Oop, this isn't going to work." I had to reset it.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for calling again, David.
Well, thanks for answering. It took 4 months to get back to you.
Yeah, it's been wild. Yep.
Yeah. So what's happening on your end?
Oh, wonderful events with my family, a niece married, and a gathering, with siblings who haven't been in the same room together in 20 years. Yeah, and I gave a wonderful, I think it was a wonderful retreat in the mountains of Tennessee at a retreat center called Wellbeing Retreat Center, which I'm really happy with.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it really wonderful, and I managed not to get COVID during all that travel and being with more people than I usually am.
Yeah,
here.
I hear a lot about COVID coming from the United States. I don't hear anything here.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm working in facilities with lots of people who are pretty vulnerable, and whole sections of these facilities are closed off recently, because of all the COVID cases. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I was thinking it was just because there's all the anti-vaxxers in America. But I was talking to Bob Halpern in Nova Scotia, and Nova Scotia was had a really good response and a very low excess death rate, which pretty much the excess death rate from COVID paralleled how much anti-vaxxing there was. There have been studies on that. Anyway, they had a very low death rate. But he said he was just in an event and 2 people got COVID after it. So it will probably come back here some too.
Well, I'm real careful. People talk about, kind of dropping their vigilance, and that's how you get it. And even if you're vigilant, sometimes it can't be helped. But, I wore an N95 on the whole flight, and, it's long. These are long flights, especially the one from Hawaii to California. It's, you're in a plane for maybe 6 or more hours, and then plus the time in an airport and, vehicle to get from the airport to your destination, etc. Anyway, I'm feeling strong again. I'm glad to say I've been home long enough here. And this is a place, it's pretty, we have such beautiful weather, except for the horrific fire that, fires like the one that caused so much destruction.
Would you be, where was that and when was that?
It was August 8th, just before I went away on my trip, and it was in Lahaina, which is north of us, and also.
And where are you?
It was I'm on the southwest side.
Of what?
And the fire happened on the northwest side of Maui. And also the fire happened up the mountain from us in Kula. So we did have to evacuate. Arnie and I were out in the middle of the night trying to find a room. There were none there because we didn't even know. This was a very strange thing that happened here in that we found out from our landlord about the fire. We did not get any notice from the county or the government at all. And we didn't know that people had evacuated Lahaina, that it had burnt down. It looked like the photos I'm sure you've seen. It looked like Hiroshima. And I've been up there now, and it really is sad. Many people on our hospice service had to flee for their struggling lives, and everything burnt to the ground behind them. And they were lucky to get out alive.
Yeah, a lot of people died.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was really, really sad. We're a very broken island now, and at the same time, as I was saying, this morning Arnie and I went swimming. It is such a gloriously beautiful place, and we're trusting the waters more or less down here. I mean, up in Lahaina, you can't trust the waters because there's so much draining out, away from what burnt to the ground, including a lot of, toxic chemicals. So it's tricky, but at the same time, like I say, it is such a beautiful place in nature, and we're isolated, 2,500 miles away from any other piece of land.
Yeah, most remote place on earth.
Yeah, amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, when we talked last time, we got up to the point, I think, of sort of like what you've been doing in Hawaii. I can't remember. But why don't you? When did you all arrive in Hawaii?
Well, this was. I mean, we were in the Bay Area. I mean, I was there 23 years. Arnie was there 30-something years.
Yeah.
Very involved at San Francisco Zen Center, and then with Thich Nhat Hahn, we founded the community of mindful living. And Arnie was ordained as a Dharma teacher in 1990. I was ordained in 1994.
Now, wait a minute. You were ordained by whom?
Ordained by Thich Nhat Hahn as a dharmacharya. Arnie was ordained by Baker Roshi, in 1977, I think, and I was ordained by him in 1986.
Ordained as what?
As a priest.
You were too.
Yeah. In 86. Yeah. In Santa Fe. It was.
Oh, yeah. That's why I didn't remember it. That's because it was in Santa Fe. Far out.
That's right. Yeah. It was. I remember Philip Whalen started shaving my head, and at some point he said, enough of this, and Steve Allen completed the work. So that was a wild time, and very beautiful to do that with Miriam. She was a dear Dharma friend. All the years I was at Zen Center, and I continued to visit her in Santa Fe, and then I was with her shortly before she died. I was with her in Pacific Northwest. It was up there, right on the coast, looking over at Canada.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, Elin and I lived in Santa Fe and from July 92 to July 93 after we came back from Japan. And I used to see Miriam at the library there in Santa Fe. And there were a couple of libraries I went to. I think she was at the one closer to our home that was a branch, but I think I remember seeing her downtown. What a wonderful library that is! Gosh, I loved it.
She was a great librarian too.
Yeah.
Oh, Miriam, I think of her a lot. I remember things she said. I just really loved her. I lived with her at 191 Haight. Oh my God, we were at Tassajara at the same time. We shared, I guess you call it a room. I mean, it was way down at the end of all the structures. It was a barn, and she loved being right by the stream. So did I.
You were in the upper barn.
Is that what it's called? It was down, down extreme as far as
Right. The upper
went.
barn, which had the rooms in back, just right above the creek.
Yeah. Oh, we loved it. It was a summer together. Yeah, we're just dear friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was. Yeah. So 94, and I think I was thinking about this. I think like the last 10 years, we were based in the Bay Area. We were actually traveling, I would say, 8 months of the year. It was pretty amazing.
With Thich Nhat Hahn.
99. Yeah, Arnie and I were either traveling with him and others, or we were traveling on his behalf, or in setting up things, getting things organized and established, whatever. Or we were actually giving our own retreats.
Mm-hmm.
And so lots of travel. We were lucky to travel all around the world.
Yeah.
And then, I described, the great rupture was in 99.
Well, I don't think you really did describe it. You just said it happened. What was it?
Well, this is something, by the way, I'm sure you and Arnie discussed it.
I don't remember. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I knew stuff happened, and I ran into you. I ran into you guys. Did you go to Dick Baker's wedding in, I think it was 99? Yeah, well, I was there.
Yeah, that's right.
I saw you there. And then when I went over to see Vanya's place, Felsentor, you all were there too. And and then we had dinner down below, by Lake Luzerne there. Below his retreat there. And it was you two, and another couple, and all four of you were disaffected Thich Nhat Hanh teachers, as I recall.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if that was, I think I have some idea who that might have been. Yeah, it was intense. So, and Arnie has written, I think, a very, deeply reflective article that was published in the Inquiring Mind, which is, accessible by the internet.
Yeah. I've got it, but I'm going to make sure.
I think that he does tell, because it is a rather kind of long story.
Well, give us the gist.
Cut to the chase.
Yeah.
I'll give you it was a couple of years or maybe more of kind of not reading the messages as clearly as we could have if we were able, reading messages that we weren't really working as closely together as we thought, certainly. And we went along as if we were, and suddenly, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I think it's very much his choice, but, with lots of counsel from businessmen and the monastic community and others involved who did, it wasn't a, who did something, legally to change the structure of Parallax Press especially, and basically dissolve the community of mindful living and replace it with the unified Buddhist church. And, this was such a shocking trauma for us. We hardly could grasp what had happened. When it all did happen, we knew in our gut, oh my God, this is, about as bad as it could be for us, given our long years, about 17 years really. I mean, longer, it was 17 years for Arnie working closely with Thich Nhat Hahn, and for me, I'd say 15 years, but very close dedication. And for all this to happen without careful communication and real understanding, it was really traumatic for us. So here we were in the midst of all that, and kind of astoundingly, someone on Hawaii Island said, you know what, there is this really substantial piece of property, and this young man is wanting to start a retreat center. And so it was set up by someone actually who was working with Diane Gray's sister in Waimea on Hawaii Island.
Mm-hmm.
Someone kind of set up the invitation for Arnie and me to come and see what was going on there. And so that we did that, and over the course of several months, including having the young man, the person who had bought hundreds of acres in North Kohala. He came to retreats with Thich Nhat Hahn with us, and so on. We were invited to come and start a retreat center on Hawaii Island. And, I mean, that was a really full-on, engaging project. And lots of people came over and helped us make that effort. It didn't come to fruition, sadly, but we tried. We learned a lot in the process and, of course, fell in love with Hawaii. And found a lot of healing here. I think for Arnie especially, I mean, I've always known to go to nature for refuge and sustenance of every kind, But I think for Arnie, it was really a wonderful time for him to connect with himself, having experienced such a kind of shattering, with Thich Nhat Hahn and the community.
All right, now wait a minute.
Yeah.
What was shattering? All you said was he dissolved Parallax Press, or he changed the structure of Parallax Press and dissolved the what was it called?
The Community of Mindful Living.
All right. Now, wait.
Yeah.
Parallax Press, essentially, what he did, right, is. It's a business that Arnie had started and was publishing Thich Nhat Hahn material, and at some point, Thich Nhat Hahn took it away from him. That's what you meant, right?
Yeah, there was it was not a carefully communicated change.
Yeah, you made that point.
Yeah.
But, all right. But, so it just sort of happened, abruptly, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, so they just decided, they were publishing Thich Nhat Hahn stuff. They wanted, to do it themselves and, didn't want Arnie's help anymore, or didn't want him to be in charge?
It wasn't told, that's not how it was communicated at first. They made changes in the legal structure, including us, but then they made a quick change in another direction, basically taking us out of any position of, stewardship. And so, we could have stayed on, but okay, think about how that felt. And then the treatment afterwards, to have people come in, monastics and lay people come into Parallax Press and with Community of Mindful Living, and dismissively come in and take everything out of our hands. In really, if you to me, that's more than inconsiderate. I mean, it was cruel. Some of the people were downright cruel.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah. So.
But wait, let's go to the community of mindful living. Well, you said dissolved it. Well, what was it?
Yeah.
And who was affected?
Yeah.
What was the community of mindful living?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, like you say, Arnie did start Parallax Press on his credit card, as a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
And sometime in the early 90s, that we made a big change and founded the community of mindful living, which was
who's we?
Incorporated. Arnie, the first board members were Arnie, myself, Wendy, and two others. And,
so Thich Nhat Hahn didn't start it.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh.
It was a Buddhist church founded in California, and so Parallax Press became, an arm of the church, a publishing arm. Yeah. So it was part of the nonprofit, the church community of mindful living. Yeah. And so when that was dissolved, we could have continued on, but it was devastating. And the sense of betrayal, I'll speak for myself, the sense of betrayal was very intense. At the same time, David, imagine, I have continued all this time since then as a teacher ordained in the tradition. And I know, there have been real ups and downs with that in terms of, support by the organization. There have been efforts to really undermine me, but I have continued, and by virtue of my very real relationships with people, this is something I think I was kind of born for. It's one of my missions in life. My father, when I was ordained as a priest by Baker Roshi, my father gave me a present, some money to go towards those bowls and robes that I had to pay for in '86.
Uh-huh.
And he said, Therese, I've always known you were meant for a life of service. I just don't really understand how this is a life of service. My father, it took a while. I think once he saw me, especially, get out of those robes and be out with people. And he would come to my talks when I'd give them in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was pretty amazed at that. My father was a very devout Catholic all his life. He lived to be 99. But anyway, it is true. I've always known I was meant for a life of service, and I have found great, openings to be of service with people, which I learned. I was doing that at Zen Center, but I really came into my own with Thich Nhat Hahn. That's one of the beauties of my relationship with him and what grew out of all that close work together.
All right. Well, now in the community of mindful living, was Joan Halifax involved with that?
Oh, yeah, she was very involved. I got to know her beautifully, over all the years. I think I met her in the mid-'80s, and we were working closely together for 15 years.
Right.
And I've continued to teach there at Upaya.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one second. So you had the community of mindful living, and you all were teaching sort of like Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching, his way, or you was with his blessing, right?
Yes, I mean, right. And Arnie was ordained earlier than I was, so was Wendy. Wendy was ordained in 92.
Yeah.
And we would teach together, the three of us. Or Arnie and I taught a lot together, or Wendy and I also taught a lot together up until maybe 2012. So, a very close collegial relationship as co-dharma teachers. And, of course, we always included, having been at Zen Center for me only 8 years, Arnie, long, I can't remember how many years, and Wendy, so long. So, we've always also included Zen, Soto Zen, but, very steeped in Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings and practices, which I always find beneficial for myself, and I've found it to be very helpful for others. But I think the Zen influence is there too.
Thich Nhat Hanh's trip is Vietnamese Zen, isn't it?
That's right. Yes. It's just a very different flavor.
Yeah. Now, all right. So you had the community of mindful living. Did you have any place, any centers, or was it all sort of nomadic?
Right. That's sadly, as much as we tried, David, and we really tried hard. Arnie and I looked at so many places in California, Virginia, and Hawaii. We were involved in, that major effort in North Kohala on Hawaii Island, and then for 6 years in Hana, Maui here. But no, we have never managed to establish a practice center, even a Zen corner, as Thich Nhat Hanh used to call them.
Yeah.
How about Zen corners, he'd say. Yeah, so we've had kind of living room Zen, which is a lot of what Thich Nhat Hanh for so many years he was encouraging people to do it at home. Have meditation practice and mindfulness practice at home, and so we've done a lot of that and supported people doing that. But no, we have not ever established a place.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily agree with you saying sadly you didn't. I don't,
Well, for me, it's sad.
Well, but in terms of the Dharma, I don't think it matters. And there's
I get you there. I feel very free, and I think of this one wonderful Hawaiian man who his church is called Church on the Go, and he is so available. You'd love him. You would really love him, and he's so available. I've actually known him in the bowels of our prison here. He's really good, and he's been in prison himself. I also see him out on the beach all the time. He's doing weddings, and I see him at my patients' and families' homes because he's coming to visit them, and Church on the Go. So, I'm with you on that. I've been able to, float very freely, and at the same time, David, you can imagine. As a Southerner, I think I have this strong thing in me about place, and Arnie can tell you that as much as I've loved every place I've lived, I really would love to just stay wherever I've been. I want to stay with the people I've been with. And I've moved away many times for good reasons, but I've got a strong part of me, so that it is sad for me not to have realized this this yearning and dream. But yeah, I have a lot of acceptance about, acceptance and appreciation for how I've been able to move, among many different kinds of people in different places.
Yeah, but you've been
I think
you've been right there in
people.
Maui. That's a place, and you've been there for how long now?
Oh, it's a long time. You've been here as long as I was in the Bay Area, so 23 years.
Yeah. So, and I'm that way. I don't want to go anywhere. I like just staying here. I think of going places as going an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours away. Okay, well, I want to go back to this community of mindful living. So it was a community without a center, but you had retreats and did you have any publication or did you have like a newsletter you sent out or anything?
Yeah. The mindfulness bell, which interestingly, Richard Baker Roshi, he pointed out, he said, it's very close in name to the wind bell.
That's right.
The first time
That's right. Mindfulness
that
bell.
It struck me.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? So the mindfulness bell was
That's
the
good.
newsletter. But of course, the publications were with Parallax, and we had a whole bunch of them.
So at the same time, were you doing retreats with Thich Nhat Hanh? Was he doing retreats with you?
Well, you mean co-teaching?
Well, I don't know. Whatever. What were you doing with him?
Right. Well, with him, right on through 99. We every other year we would organize huge tours of retreats all over the country, all along the coast, both coasts, and inland. We would have huge retreats. We went from having retreats for 35 people in 1987 in New York City to having a 5-day retreat with 1,200 people at Omega Institute.
Wow.
Outside of New York. Yeah, it was astounding, really, what happened with Thich Nhat Hanh.
What happened?
Yeah.
What happened? So everything was going smoothly. You had your thing. You and he was already in Plum Village, right?
Yeah, he'd been in Plum Village all the time. All the time
in France.
We met him. Yeah, Arnie met him when he came to the United States. With and in New York, with Baker Roshi and Lou and others in New York. And then when he came to Tassajara in '83, that's when I first met him. But all that time he was living in France. Yeah.
All right. So
and so we.
All right. So everything.
We first went.
All right. Go on. You first went.
Yeah. That was we went to Plum Village for the first time in 1984.
Okay. And so everything was hunky dory right up to 89. You had your thing going, and what typified what you were doing as different from what he was doing? You all were like lay priests in a way, married people.
Yeah, we were lay Dharma teachers.
Right.
Right.
And his thing was in. Correct me if I'm wrong. What was he had more like celibate priests there, that like Vietnamese or something?
Well, yeah, that developed. At first, Thich Nhat Hanh was trying to get traction with the lay Western community, and it wasn't going as easily where he wanted it to go. And
where did he want it to go?
Well, I think he wanted it to go, with more devotion, dedication, and he just could not, he'd never had, the kind of, like residential students or even order members, the order of interbeing. I mean, that was the order. I mean, you could become a dharmacharya, after being ordained in the order of interbeing, dharmacharya, dharma teacher. But the order of interbeing, he said, I remember one day when he tried to have a meeting to organize us all, and this was maybe in the mid-'90s or early '90s, '93, because there's a real demarcation. In 1995, Thich Nhat Hahn made a major trip and we helped organize this. We had, weeks of retreats in Japan, China. Well, we actually didn't have retreats in China. We traveled in China. We had retreats in Japan, Taiwan, and Korea. And I think, and by this time, by '95, Thich Nhat Hanh had ordained many more monastics, especially Vietnamese monastics. So I think that's when he started to see, well, his vision, could go much more deeply and strongly with a monastic community. And look how many monastic centers they now have.
I don't know. How many monastic centers do they have?
I don't know. I would guess, I don't know how much, how many are actually owned by them. You see, I don't actually know, but I can tell you there's one in New York State, there's one in Mississippi, there's one in, Deer Park in California. France has, Plum Village consists of a number of hamlets, they're called. I think there was one in Vietnam, maybe Thailand, etc. I don't even know. But, and there are, and how many, I don't know how many hundreds, or is it thousands of monastics? I mean, it's a huge base of monastics now.
So
yeah.
He found that he was being more effective as a teacher with monastics than with lay people. He didn't like the way it was going with the lay thing. And was the lay thing the sort of the lay priest?
I just remember him saying one time after a meeting when we tried to have an organizational meeting about the order of interbeing, and he said, "Can you believe it? They don't want to be organized." And I mean, I used to have the same problems. I felt the same. I had the same difficulty. I would really suffer because people, lay people from all over the world. I mean, especially all over the West. I'm talking about Europeans, Australians, Canadians, and Americans. I would have the hardest time getting people to do things that they know I don't really feel like it. It was, oh boy. So, and yet, we also had, I think of something like this veterans writing group with Maxine, Hanh, Kingston. I mean, Maxine and her husband, Earl Kingston, have dedicated themselves so completely to supporting the veterans who, Thich Nhat Hanh invited them into the room in the first place. And Maxine came along and said to us, listen, I'm being offered this wonderful Lila Wallace Reader's Digest what do you call it? Scholarship, I don't know, anyway, money to develop a program, a community program. And what I want to do is continue what we've done with Thich Nhat Hanh, healing the wounds of war, but I want to focus on writing, Maxine said. So that's what we started in 92 or 3.
What was it called?
Program is still, it's called the Veterans Writing Group. And she's written about it in her book, The Fifth Book of Peace. Yeah. And that's the kind of work that there was always that kind of potential. Thich Nhat Hanh would kind of light the fire, but then we'd keep it going. But I also came up against resistances with that, and then he wasn't necessarily supportive, of the particularly lay efforts. And boy, I'd get my wings clipped, if I ventured too far, according to him and them, them.
Well, all right. In what way? What happened?
Oh, well, I mean, for example, with the veterans, that was really vivid for me. In the, mid to late 90s, at retreats with veterans, after we'd, done this, for a couple of years, we started in 89 with Thich Nhat Hanh, and, the veterans, they've been through a lot, and they have to speak their mind, and they have to be in good communication with people they're working with, or they will just retreat or just leave. And so I was often finding myself between a rock and a hard place. The rock was, no, Thich Nhat Hanh was saying, no, let them join with the whole retreat. Let them be part of the retreat. Well, when you're trying to, asking veterans, even for a lot of people who haven't been, don't have wounds of war, when you're in a gathering, even if it's a well-intentioned, a well-guided gathering of 1,200 people or 1,000 people, you can feel pretty lost. Well, I was trying to represent the veterans' needs, and I remember, Thich Nhat Hanh was saying, no, let them be part of the retreat. That is the best medicine, and it wasn't working.
Yeah, well, what did you want to do? What did you want to do? You wanted to have.
I wanted, first of all, I wanted some veterans to be able to speak with Thich Nhat Hanh and get their message across, and then we would work with them. I'll tell you, even in the early ones, 88 and 89, they were ready to revolt. When we can't just be talked to. Even though, yes, Thich Nhat Hanh was giving very beautiful teachings, but they needed some other way to process their experience. So it was so great. You probably know Dina Metzger. Dina said,
I don't.
Listen, what?
I don't.
Okay, she's a wonderful, author in Southern California, Dina Metzger. We published a few of her poetry books at that's right. Yeah. And so Dina said, "Hey, we gotta break stuff down here with these people. Let's have small groups." And and I was in her group with the vets, and she just really knew how to listen. I think she wrote a book, something about how to make love with vets and take the war out of them. I'm paraphrasing, but she's a strong woman. Whoa, and. Like Maxine, and strong faculties. And boy, that's what really made that first retreat with veterans work. We were at Casa Maria in California. Yeah. So, there were Thich Nhat Hanh was very avant-garde. With his ideas for Western Buddhism or, American Buddhism. He saw, great potential, and I think we opened up many Dharma doors with him. And it's just good thing that kind of people picked up and carried on, because in a sense, what Thich Nhat Hahn turned to was monastic cultivation of monastic communities and monastic practice. And, I mean, so many thousands and hundreds of thousands of people have benefited and all that. But, we might have, just like, and it's interesting. But there wasn't a meeting of minds, There wasn't a meeting of minds enough to even discuss these things.
Well, look, here's what here's what I'm hearing. You started a writing group for veterans, for them to deal with their problems from their wounds of war, and Thich Nhat Hanh gave it his blessing. And then he wanted to relate to them as people who'd come to him and said, I want to study Buddhism.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
or practice mindfulness.
I
think that
it sounds like there were different goals of, his retreat, and he wanted to pull them into his retreat, but that isn't what they had signed up for. So you said your wings were clipped. Now, you mean that people criticized you for doing that, or what?
If I'm coming to him and saying, and I would name, I said, this one and this one that, need to be heard by you. There was a time he did not even come to the door to hear me. See, so but that isn't really what I meant about wings clipped. I think what when I would, in discussions with him, and not just him, and there were lay and monastic others involved, we would have discussions, and I'd say, well, we are primarily a lay community, and so nurturing, the lay leadership is important for continuation of the teachings and so on, and I remember people would say very strong things to me.
What would they say? I don't know what that means.
Well,
what would they say?
Basically, they would, without saying the exact words, because I'd rather just say that they basically told me to. They basically told me I was not being traditional enough.
Oh. All right.
And, but I wasn't being traditional enough. And see, that my understanding, this is what it gave me, my energy was engaged by them for so many years to develop the potential with, the Western communities. By the West, all through Europe. I helped establish, the structure of the Plum Village summer sessions, for example, and that was very lay. It involved children, people, whole families. In other words, sometimes you'd have a spouse, a partner who was not really interested in Buddhism. So how do you really talk to people, about ways of mindfulness or awakening, for the benefit of all beings? And I was given a lot of space to be creative and develop things that would help it all work. Because David, imagine, Plum Village was pretty much a Vietnamese community when we first started going there, and they all shared that language, and you can't believe it, but there were many times where we didn't have a written schedule, and all of a sudden we'd see everybody going towards the parking lot, and we knew, okay, something's happening in a different hamlet. And so I started following Sister Chung Kum, Thich Nhat Hanh's main assistant. I started following her around with clipboard. Okay, so what time's that going to happen, and where is that going to be, and so on. And so now they have this very well structured. It's like a really well greased machine. People arrive and stay a week. You have pick up on these days, drop off at the train station on those days, and these are the kind of practices that we have for, or sessions. I mean, addressing the needs of Westerners, in families and people who are not in families, et cetera. So there was a lot of leeway and creativity. But at some point, all that started being, not really valued. And so that was a big part of the rupture.
Yeah. So
and, it sounds. I was like, gosh, couldn't we work this out? And in some sense, that's what it always seems to come down to, David, doesn't it? I mean, when people have conflicts, it's the stopping trying to communicate that is the biggest problem, because these problems, I mean, they could have been more civilly, kindly, compassionately resolved.
Yeah, but they weren't. So you said
they really weren't.
So Thich Nhat Hanh, you said, dissolved the Community for Mindful Living, but I thought it was something you all started. And
yes, we did. That's right.
Then how could he dissolve it? What?
Oh well, that's the move. They increased the board to, I can't remember how many monastics, and there were a few lay people, but basically they increased the number of the board, and this was done with, lawyers who really knew what they were doing, and advised by business people who knew, what they had in mind. And all of this, of course, could never happen without Thich Nhat Hanh and Sister Chung Kum's permission.
Yeah.
Or
so they expanded the board
decision.
and outvoted you to move it in the direction that they wanted to go, right?
Oh, they excluded us.
And yeah. So
yeah.
So that happens in groups. That happens with teachers. This is
That's right.
They I've seen teachers, some of them, become more conservative as they get older and feel discouraged about what they tried to do. So, but anyway, they weren't nice in the way they did it. So you all lost Parallax Press, and your Community of Mindful Living, you'd started, but you'd made a board, so you didn't have control of it, so it moved in a different direction. And that is very normal for institutions with boards. Like when Sim van Dren's Fairlawns Institute, which he founded, finally his board sort of took it away from him, and David Katz, who was on the board, said he had founder's disease. And that happens a lot. That happened to Richard Baker at Zen Center. The board and the community ran into an impasse with him. They expressed great displeasure at sort of where he was, how he was being in his relationship with the community and the board and everything. And they couldn't come to a resolution, so he moved on. But anyway, there was a very bad feeling. That's the clearest thing. in the breakup there of that. And so the way I experienced it was that you and Arnie, that other couple I met, Wendy, Joan Halifax, and I don't know who else, sort of lay teachers, they separated from Thich Nhat Hanh. You all separated from him and continued teaching, but were no longer affiliated with him, right?
Yeah. I mean, there are occasional. There were. I mean, for Wendy and Joan, they actually saw him. In the last 20 years, or the 20 years before he died. Arnie and I did not. Yeah. But, yeah. And Joan, of course, Joan became, a Dharma teacher in the lineage with Bernie Glassman.
Right.
And Wendy, Wendy received the lay teacher ordination with Linda Ruth. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And she's, of course, Wendy is very involved at Upaya now. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said you are too. Are you still involved with
I have been. I actually haven't traveled very much in the last 10 years. I mean, it's interesting. Arnie and I and Wendy and I and another woman in North Carolina, Leslie Rawls, and I taught for years. And we're talking California. I was in Massachusetts, Houston, Texas, New Mexico. At Vallecitos Mountain Refuge. But the longest time in 25 plus years in Arkansas, and actually it was about 10 years in Houston, and also in Phoenix and Tucson. But the Southeast, I'm still teaching there. With COVID and
You're teaching there. Are there places that you go, or are people just come together when you go there and like that?
Yes, like Southern Dharma Retreat Center, which is they've kind of proclaimed. They give mostly Buddhist retreats, but not only. Yeah. Anyway, I have loved that place, and I taught there for 20 plus years. And also, I was just lucky to have these beautiful people taking care of a retreat center right there on Petit Jean Mountain outside of Little Rock. And so a strong community developed that, gathered from Fayetteville and Little Rock, Arkansas, and also, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Tennessee, and so on. And that was a good long stretch.
Wow.
Wendy joined me there.
Yeah.
And nice because Wendy would bring in, the writing practice that she does with Natalie Goldberg. And
right.
That was some beautiful. Yeah, that was beautiful to see. Sometimes people would learn more about themselves and put it into action, from that writing practice than they could from Dharma discussion and Zazen and mindful eating and all the rest of it. Sometimes writing, just like with the veterans, writing can be one of the most effective tools, practices.
That's interesting. I always just think of it as work. But anyway, I understand that. So now you've been situated there in Hawaii the last 10 years. Now there's there's two Zen temples in Hawaii. There's probably more. There's a Soto Zen temple. Is it on Maui?
Yes. And for years I was involved with the minister there, who has since moved back to Japan.
He's a minister? You call him a minister?
Oh, yeah, that's how it works here. And he's a Soto Zen minister, yes.
Oh, they use
Reverend.
Christian terms.
That's very much the way here. I mean, he was, when I first started getting involved with him, and he would invite me to give, talks, days of mindfulness, mornings of mindfulness, and I would help him. It was the one time, David. In fact, I went to him with my okesa. I said, Kenji-san, now, do I say San? Kenji-san. Isn't that the way you say it?
Yeah.
His name was Kenji, yeah. I'd say, here I sewed this okesa. I have robes. I've never really worn them. I was ordained, after, my root teacher left the center. I never lived, resided in a center after that. Is there any way I could help you? So he brought me in to help him. And that was quite dear. And, it's with that community has been going for 100+ years. These were the people who were brought over basically to work the sugarcane and pineapple plantations, David, and that was really hard work.
Right.
And, they ended up getting these fabulous properties right on the ocean, and that's where the beautiful, simple temple is. They can barely keep the keep the building up. God, the ocean's starting to take the cemetery into itself. But
really?
Anyway, oh yeah, it's sad. All the erosion. I mean, really, there you can see the markers, the grave stones that have been washed into the ocean there.
I have a question about. Wait a minute. I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Are they actual graves with bodies buried, or are they Oaxaca, which is like ashes site with markers for where the ashes went?
It's interesting. That's interesting because I don't know. But
they might have done burial there because that's what was done in America. The Japanese Americans did a lot of that. And also they called Suzuki Reverend Suzuki when they were speaking English. And a lot of the early Zen Center people called him Reverend Suzuki. And Alan Watts objected to that. He said you're using the word wrong. I don't know. He explained about the word reverend, it was interesting. I can't remember what his point was. That's
interesting.
But it of course, then in America it moved to Sensei and Roshi.
Right. He was, this minister is also called sensei, especially when people are talking Japanese to him, of course. But, he would go by Reverend Oyama. So I was involved for years, and then they did not have a priest for years. They tried with a number of people. There was a woman, a Western woman who they had there for a very short time, and likewise a Japanese priest. And so they invited me to come in and give the weekly meditation practice there, which I did. And yeah, it was beautiful. Right. It was beautiful. And so now they do have, they went through the long process to, get all the, green card and all that jazz. And now they have a priest from Japan and his young man and his wife. And that's how it is. There's only one Soto Zen temple here. There are a number of Honganji, Jodo Shu, and there's one other kind of...
That's Jodo Shinshu, I think.
Yeah, Jodo Shinshu, right.
Jodo Shu's different.
Yes, that's right, exactly. So there are those three kinds of Buddhist temples. Of course, two of them have been totally burnt to the ground.
Is that right?
God. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think there's probably one of them will be featured. One that has a big Buddha statue that did not burn, but the temple and the, community building burnt and the parsonage burnt to the ground.
Is fires associated with the big fire in August?
Oh yeah, the big fire, right? And that property was the Jodo Mission, yeah, it's called.
Yeah.
Jodo Mission. And then the other one is a Honganji temple that was, like a couple of streets away from the ocean, but it's just the saddest thing. And the
Honganji. That's interesting to call it Honganji, because I think of Honganji as being the mother temple in Kyoto. There's two main sects of Jodo Shinshu, and they have names like that. They're very close to each other. They're very big temples, not far from the train station in Kyoto. But anyway, doesn't matter. Technical point.
It's called, they have, I would guess most of the Buddhists on Maui are Honganji Buddhists.
I think that means they're associated with one of like I said, there's two main branches of Jodo Shinshu, and I think one of them is Honganji. But I'll look into it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
So
help educate me. I just know I've really loved my contact with the ministers here. It's one of the joys of my work. As a hospice chaplain, I'm calling on them all the time, and boy, they mean a lot to me. In working with people together, and likewise the Catholic priests and all the Protestant ministers and nuns I work with, etc. The rabbis. I mean, I love that part of my work too. I really do. There's certain priests. I tell you, I'm just always thanking them, bringing them gifts, because it can be hard when a person dying and a family really feel the need for a priest to come, and they're not active in a church, a parish. You're really up against it, and when there's a priest who will just go, it's such a blessing, and it's such a support and comfort to the families. I've even had priests who were open to, they said, well, my husband was Jewish, but we brought our kids up Catholic, and he would be so comforted to have a priest come and give him a blessing at the end of his life here. And there are priests who understand that, appreciate that, and go. But then you'll have priests who really, will not. And sometimes you just can't even get anybody on the phone. And that's really hard because it's, it's so meaningful to people. So it's been interesting to go from being, very immersed in, two kinds of Buddhist practice in the same school, basically, but to be immersed in Buddhism, having been brought up Catholic, married to a Jewish man, and here I am now supporting people on all these different paths. At the end of his or her life and the families around.
Yeah, well, you married a Jewish man, but he became a Buddhist like 50 years ago, you know.
I know, but you can take the Jewish man out of Jersey, but he's wonderfully still Jewish. In fact, I often say to him, Arnie, you know, let's have some more of that culture. I mean, I get it with other friends, you know, who have continued to be maybe even more Jewish while they're also being mindfulness practitioners, you know. And I see so many beauties in the culture, in the scriptures. But
that's not true with. There's people that have Jewish heritage. You wouldn't guess it.
I know.
You know.
Yeah, but I mean, Arnie was bar mitzvahed, and he has a love of the language. You know, especially during the the holy season. Now he'll say, "Oh, let's tune into that chanter," and of course, it's so beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
We go to Seder.
I'm lucky.
Yeah, we go to Seder every year here.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. Two of our closest friends, husband and wife, she's Muslim, so you can't you have to be the same religion here to get married. So his name is Muhammad Elliott Cohen. And they got married, and she's sort of Muslim, like that's what she would brought up. You know, they're really sort of free thinkers. But she goes home for all the Muslim holidays. She's got a big family thing. She comes from another island, and but they do Passover. That's Seder. Is that the same thing?
Oh God. I'm terrible.
Well, anyway, we have that every year with them, and it's a big event, and all sorts of people come. There'll be like usually a dozen up to 20 people. And they'll also do Thanksgiving sometimes, and it'll be potlucks, and there'll be people from every country and religion and race and. I love ritual. I really do.
Yeah. I know, that was a big connection between me and Linda Ruth Cutts. I was lucky. She was my last practice period at Tassajara, and I felt so fortunate. Yeah, I loved her appreciation of ritual, and, I was... now, what's it called when you're taking care of the altar? I want to say Cheeden, but I'm not sure.
Cheeden, yeah, that's right, Cheeden.
Yeah, oh yeah, I was making the candles and, gathering the wildflowers, and it was, I guess, it's partly my Catholic upbringing, but my tendency toward ritual has always been strong. I mean, I would have rituals in my gardening, as a 8-year-old. I had some pretty amazing rituals. It was it's always been interesting to me. Yeah.
We did a ritual last night. There's a Rinpoche here that comes here from Nepal, and he lives near Rishikesh in a small village, but he has several monasteries in Nepal he goes to, and he actually goes into Tibet to the home temple. He just wears business clothes, and he, goes as a businessman or as a tourist. But we went to a 2-hour in empowerment with him last night. And we took him and some of his monks to lunch the other day, and there was a big stupa opening, enshrinement, or whatever, Oh, and there's all these Shiva Buddha, sort of Vajrayana Hindus here. It was a big event.
Vajrayana Hindus?
And there was a lot of communities were sent, young women for dancing, Balinese dance. So it was like one little group after another. And the Rinpoche was, the Tibetan Buddhist thing, but there were the Vajrayana priests from here too. It sort of had moved over when the Buddhists in Borobudur in Java had to move out, were pushed out by Muslims, came here. So there's a Vajrayana Buddhist flavor in Bali. It's all none of it's. I find it interesting, but it's all stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff to believe in, a lot of ceremonies and this and that. And I'm happy to be at a ceremony for a while. That's a nice way to relax. But, I just sit in the morning and I have a little thing I chant, and I don't want to have to believe things.
Interesting. I mean, isn't it interesting? I found real camaraderie with Stephen Batchelor on this same understanding, and he's very articulate about it. I reread Secular Buddhism, which I think is brilliant and interesting that he's coming out so clearly with this now. And it kind of it was interesting. It opened up something for me. I started to read this wonderful British woman, Sarah Bakewell, and she has given me access to philosophers I could never read. I'd buy their books and I couldn't read them. But through her and her way of kind of digesting their understandings and living with them and drawing out their humanness. These are books like Humanly Possible or Existentialist Cafe. She also wrote a book about Montaigne's teachings from his, voluminous writings called How to Live. Something like 27 efforts to answer the question. And it's this very humble way of inquiring in life. And, the energy that gives human beings to really be curious and also find out a lot. Not just ask questions, find out answers to questions, but not, be pretty healthily skeptical of belief systems, because obviously, the United States is in such a mess right now with us versus them. And, it's so heavy. It's so intense.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So
I don't keep up with it these days. I don't read any news.
Well. Oh, wow. Yes.
I hear a few things.
Yes.
But, America's... I saw a little thing somebody posted on Facebook. I stay away from anything political or anything on Facebook, but I saw this. It said, if it was something like, if you still don't understand how how Jim Jones got all those people to drink the Kool-Aid, or something like, there's no excuse anymore for saying you don't understand how somebody could get so many people to drink the Kool-Aid.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. People will believe anything.
Yeah.
They'll go along with anything. There's nothing that's too extreme or too far out or too cruel or too anything you can imagine. It's all possible. And it's not only possible for a large number of people, it's possible for a very high percentage of the population to go along with it. Yeah. Basically, people believe what they're told. And, there's, I'm sorry, you never know. You have ages of enlightenment and dark ages. It's sort of, there seems to be a struggle between the dark ages and the light ages going on, and it seems to me like the climate's going to win.
Oh dear, yeah, there is that. Right. Well, it's through that non-seeing, non-hearing, non-learning. I mean, ignorance, and not to mention, the greed and hatred. So we got the three major poisons raging. I mean, just raging among humans.
Right. Right.
So, I keep my little light in the window here.
Yeah.
Light in the window of my heart and my actual window.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm not really a Steve Batchelor type. He likes Buddhism without karma and reincarnation and stuff. To me, it's how you understand what karma is, how you understand what reincarnation is. To me, reincarnation and karma are both words that describe the present moment, what's happening with phenomena, and it's the nature of phenomena.
Right. I bet he would agree. I mean, the whole point is not to rest. It's not even rest. It's not to cling to belief systems to the point where you can't see.
Well, that's
reality.
Very true. No, I do like him. Yeah. I do like him what he said.
I mean, it's really been very invigorating for me, and I think especially as I'm working with people of different belief systems, and sometimes they're holding on for dear life, and yet I can also see that on a heart-to-heart level, they are wanting to relax and to if the person is dying, to let go of clinging of every sort, because boy, talk about the climate. Well, the body too. The body starts leading the way in dying. And people may still pray for a miracle, and sometimes they happen. I mean, I don't disbelieve in that. I don't focus on the belief. It's like, well, if that happens, then I want to be right there. But the letting go, the being with, that's what humans are quite capable, and yet we are closing off to that. So I'm just, I'm glad I'm in this position. It's yes, I'd rather, on some sense, on some level, I'd rather be with my, kind of long time Dharma friends someplace, and cultivating the broad and lively Dharma. But I'm getting to do it here, in a very wild place. Wild in many ways. Yeah. it's so good that you're taking an interest in this, David. I kind of marvel. I said to Arnie the other day, why is David interviewing me? Well, why not, Therese?
Yeah.
He's still one of my
I like to hear what
Dharma friends.
Yeah, everybody has something to share, to offer. Yeah. Back to the greed, hate, and delusion thing. I always had a sense of greed and hate, what they were, but I would wonder, well, what's delusion? As like you're confused and this and that. And I've come to see delusion, it can include a lot, but basically it's clinging to beliefs. That's the way I see it now. It's being attached strongly to the belief of self, permanent self, or whatever, believing in. But we're going to always have beliefs. I think the thing is how attached they are. They're sort of like temporary. They serve you temporarily, but I don't. To me, the strong belief, strong faith, as they would say on TV, is just delusion. Anyway, look, I think we pretty much covered. Go on.
Yeah. This is great Dharma discussion. I really, really appreciate it, David, honestly. Beautiful. And, I realize we haven't had that many sit-downs over the years. You've had many more with my husband. You work much more closely with him, but this has been really special for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, me too. I appreciate it. But you know what I used to love, and I probably said this in the last one, is listening to you and Elin sing rounds. It was so beautiful. You
I
all were
told you,
incredible.
I'm doing it every week. Every week, I'm singing Dona Nobis Pacem, Babylon. We went down and by the waters of Babylon, we lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. And so on. I mean, those songs are so soulful. And there was one she taught me. I should really call her. I actually still have the writing of the words, but I don't remember the tune.
You could do it on the phone with her.
I know. I mean, the Dona Nobis Pacem, I'm telling you, that really helps people. I saw someone, a Catholic. It was the only time I was with this person as she was dying, the last moments, and I sang that song over and over, and I'm telling you, at some point, she opened her eyes, and she looked through a portal. I was so moved. I could hardly keep singing, but I did, because I saw it was a door for her. Yeah, that dear Elin. She took us on as choir mistress. And she was really good at it.
Yeah, and she was very young, and she was very talented.
Yeah.
And she has been involved. She was involved with I don't know what you call it, English type madrigal, or I don't know, singing.
Oh yeah.
But then she moved to Eastern European, and boy, I really liked that. The Eastern European stuff, like with. God, I can't remember the name of the group. Oh man, that is cool music because it has that Mideastern influence. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. The English stuff. I can't remember how to identify that type of music. It was a little square for me, but it was good. But the Eastern European stuff was fantastic.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we have covered a lot of territory here. Really interesting.
Yes,
a lot
David,
of it was
wonderful.
A lot of it was what I used to say, what Zen Center giveth, Zen Center taketh away.
Meaning what?
But that, well, I would say, at Zen Center. And, but you see it in different groups. You see it, that, we gain things from being involved with groups and institutions and spiritual practice, but whatever we think is ours tends to we either tend to leave it or it tends to be taken away from us, and sometimes in very nice ways, and sometimes in not nice ways.
Well, I just think I think that's that's part of it. I think there's just so much more opportunity to come to a fuller understanding and real appreciation of each other as sister and brother human beings.
Right.
Human beings.
Well, that's the Rodney King approach.
That's the what approach?
That's the Rodney King approach. He was the guy, when he was beaten up in L.A., he was a truck driver.
Rodney
by
King.
a mob.
Yeah, okay.
And later, he said, can't we all just get along? That's what you're saying. Oh, does it have to be this way? Couldn't it have been nice?
Not only. Here's the thing: we don't have a chance at really getting along unless we get through some of these big things together. And when you think about how we don't manage as people who have kindred, camaraderie, we have kindred minds. I mean, how can we expect people who don't have so much kindred minds? So I'm just saying that, especially for fellow practitioners, brothers and sisters on a path of liberation, I mean, getting through. I mean, this is what I find, in my marriage. I'm so grateful. I mean, we've been together through so much since 82, 30 years. So
pretty cool.
And to get through, I'm so grateful that I have managed to get through what we've gotten through.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to more. I mean, that's the beauty of real relatedness, is you care to attend to one's own needs and the other's needs, including the need to flourish, So, I think this is also the essential part, So, and that's what the Lord give us, the Lord take us away. Yeah, that's part of it.
That's right.
Definitely, and this is too. So. Let's carry on, David.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been great talking with you. I know we could talk all day. But
enjoy the rest of your days.
Yeah.
Starting there.
Yeah. Maybe look. Do I have a good picture of you?
I think I did. I sent you.
You sent.
I'll look at what I sent you. Yeah, I can send you. You want me to send you stuff?
Yeah, just resend it.
Okay.
And
okay.
I can. I think I know where it is, probably. But every once in a while,
It's easy to
every
resend.
once in a while I
will.
misplace things. I had a very unfortunate experience with that last night. Katrinka gave me this razor that was the absolutely best razor I ever had. It was just incredible, and it came with 2 blades. And I think she got it at Ross. I think it was some fancy type that went out of business. And I put the second blade in the box. So, and it just lasted. That first blade lasted a year. I'm not like Arnie. Arnie's really hairy. I think I have Indian blood or something. I never had to shave every day or anything. But last night I realized I needed the new blade. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the box, and I thought, I probably threw the box away. I don't need this old box, and it had the blade in it. I keep all this crap around and then I decide to go through it and get rid of a few things. And every time I get rid of something I really wanted, needed, and I go, I didn't realize that cord was for this. Now I can't use this. That sort of thing. Yeah, I had one time, I found a piece of metal. It was like metal pipe. It was like 4 inches long and maybe an inch in diameter, or an inch and a half in diameter. It had some funny things on it. And finally, I put it in recycling, got rid of it. And then later, when I put the kayak back, ready to take the kayak back out and put the oars together, I realized it was the thing that held the oars together in the center. And
David.
God, that bothered me. And so I there's this guy who's our local driver. He has like this Volkswagen bus type thing. It's not that, but it's open. And I said, look, we brought one of the oars. I need a pipe that fits on that. And we went around to all these boat places and stuff. And finally, we went to one funky place, but it was a boat place, boat parts and different things. They didn't have anything that was right. And Yoman, the driver, he went into their scrap and found this piece of regular old plastic pipe that was exactly, perfectly, the oar fit into it. And I told them, look, it has to have holes in it here so that these things, that on the oar part, when you get to that point, a little something sticks out to hold it in. So there's 4 of those, and I gave it to them. And they said, come back tomorrow. I came back the next day, and they had made an absolute perfect replica without a picture of it.
Oh, my God.
And they charged me $2.
Driver friend.
Right.
That's really resourceful.
Yeah, and it cost $2 to fix it. So
David.
Not every lost item or lost thing story has a happy ending like that. Anyway.
Very resourceful. Oh, David.
So, so we've got to stop meeting like this.
Yes, we do.
And it's been give my love to Arnie.
I will, David.
Tell him I look forward to the next time we come in contact, too. Okay.
Yes.
Take care.
Aloha.
Yeah. Aloha. Bye-bye.
Aloha.
So thanks a lot, Therese Fitzgerald. Really enjoyed talking with you, and I admire your work, your hospice work. That's really good work. She mentioned that Arnie wrote a piece that was in Inquiring Mind years ago. Anyway, you can read it by going to cuke.com, cuke.com. Write Kotler, or Arnie Kotler, in the site search box. Go to Arnie's page and look down there and you'll see it. It's something like letting go of my father. And he's talking about his father, Thich Nhat Hahn, and Richard Baker, experiences he had there. Well, I guess that's it. This has been a Cuke audio podcast. I'm D.C. Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from sleepy Sanur with Dogette Bandita and dear lovely Katrinka, and we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.